Get a whiff of this. You've walked into an English gentleman's club, a sitting room, filled mostly with refined-looking men and women conversing in small groups enjoying scotch and cigars or pipes. Something is being celebrated, and the happiness is unrestrained, familiar, and genuine. The slightly formally dressed guests are standing, but many are also sitting on the rosewood furniture or the dark mahogany leather Chesterfields. There are numerous open decanters of scotch sitting invitingly on beautiful, ornate wooden side tables spread around the room. The yellow lighting from the Tiffany lamps warms up the rich darkness of the room, and there is plenty of banter and laughter. Thick wafts of tobacco smoke glide from one part of the room to the other, but the smoke is not screechy or suffocating. The remains of a dense fruit cake with a bowl of vanilla cream for topping is sitting atop of a serving cart just by the massive window overlooking the courtyard filled with trees whose colorful leaves are just about to start falling, although it's too dark outside now to know for sure. Judging by the fact that a staff member has not yet come by to fetch the cart, now stacked full of empty plates, the cake was only recently devoured. Perhaps a crumb or two made it to the tailored fronts of the revelers who had to practice restraint to eat such a succulent treat so politely. Ah, here comes a staff member now, dressed in uniform. She leaves open behind her the door to the hallway, which leads to the kitchen, from which an array of warm and inviting spices can now be perceived. Welcome back to my channel, fellow fume heads. Yes, it's Trina here. I like to review fragrances on this channel and still like to talk about handbags too. So if bags and or frags are your jam too, kindly stick around and do like and subscribe. So, released in 2007 for Tom Ford's Private Blend series by Olivier Gillotin, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Tobacco Vanille quickly became a much-loved and even much obsessed about classic. Olivier is actually the executive perfumer and vice president at Givaudan in New York, so this knows his stuff, I would say. Like other Tom Ford Private Blend fragrances, this does not come cheap. On the contrary, and that, before I say any more, is the first major drawback to this fragrance, and all of his fragrances. The second negative, well, much as I do absolutely adore this fragrance, I don't particularly think it's the most versatile. And these days, I also think there is a third drawback, and that's that if you are willing to compromise just a little, you can find alternatives that won't break the bank. I'll talk about a couple of these in a little while as well. So these 3 points, high price, narrow versatility, and availability of alternatives, not so original anymore I guess, explain why I only have this little wee decant here and not a full bottle of the stuff. To be clear though, if I were gifted a big bottle, I'd be happy as a pig in mud. So let me share with you the notes. Here they are. It's really too bad there's no sprayer on this decant because I don't think I get the best initial sniff experience. It's there though, that first blast of cherry tobacco. I know this might not be in the memory of younger generations because, thankfully, fewer and fewer people smoke these days. But for me, well, it takes me back to the early days of my childhood when my dad still smoked a pipe. I don't really have memories of him smoking it. Likely I was highly put off by the smoke and disappeared from the room. But I do remember handling the empty pipe when he wasn't looking. I remember the smooth feel of the cherry oak device in my hand and my obsession with putting my nose up to it to get the remnants of honeyed molasses-like damp tobacco and dirty ashtray. Tobacco Vanille reminds me a lot of this, but sweeter, and yes, thankfully minus the ashtray vibe. There's thankfully no hint of combustion in this little liquid concoction. The robust vanilla in this composition grounds the fragrance, and it's nicely accented with soft, spicy notes in the form of maybe apple pie with plum sauce or something like that give it a kick. It's very rich, it's very deep, heavy, and high calorie, made all the more delish by the cacao that is mixed in. But the cacao, the chocolatey powder, it's not powdery actually. It's delivered in more of a bean paste, if you will. Although it's flavorful and scrumptious and cozy, it just borders on gourmand. Well, it is gourmand, but it's not over the top, full-blown edible. Especially today, you can find way more saccharine fragrances on the market if you do have a sweet tooth. This one somehow manages to flirt with sugar and spice, yet remain naughty, devilishly nice. In addition to the vanilla at the base, I think there might be the tiniest tinge of something else dark and mysterious in here that is helping the vanilla to both elevate the fragrance and tie it down so that it doesn't float away at the same time. Could it be? It could be patchouli, but it's not listed there. Some sort of woody note, maybe sandalwood or cedar perhaps. The fragrances in Tom Ford's private blend collection are all meant to be personal and unique, and also often idealized expressions of their main components. So Lost Cherry is all about cherry, and divine it is. Plum Japonaise is all about the plum, and yes, Tobacco Vanille is just as its name implies, it's a vanillic tobacco. So if you don't care for tobacco scents and if you don't like vanilla, this is not going to be one for you, obviously. But that would be vraiment dommage because this is really a beaut. Unless you're in Cuba or some other hot country that embraces the cigar to the same extent, I think you'll want to avoid this fragrance in hot or even warm weather. It's got far too much of a warm and cozy fireplace and cuddles feel to it. Although, you know, I'm wearing it right now, it's hot, it's not bothering me, but that's just me. I think the perfect time to wear it is over the winter holidays due to the boozy spiced fruit, specifically Christmas. You're at least slightly dressed up, no ripped jeans with t-shirts. You're surrounded by loved ones at the fireplace, enjoying a mulled adult beverage or maybe a champagne-y type of thing, or perhaps a spiced chai latte. But there's also a romantic interest present. Perhaps a new girlfriend or boyfriend that you brought over to meet the family, or maybe an attractive friend that a sibling has invited over. This is a snuggly fragrance, but not solely comprised of platonic cuddles, although it may seem so just on the surface. No, once you get an attractive warm heartbeat pressed up against you with this stuff, I'd say it's game over, male or female. This is definitely unisex to my mind, although 14 years ago, I can see where people might have thought it's more masculine, but Mr. Ford himself never saw it that way. In his private blend fragrances, he prefers to focus on memories, places, or emotions rather than gender. Anyway, don't wear this to the office. It's too fancy and too distracting, and don't wear it out clubbing either. It's too refined for that. And don't wear this to dine, definitely not out to eat, at least more formally. It'll interfere with the food experience, I think. And as I said earlier, don't wear it in warm weather. Yeah, to me, Tobacco Vanille really does have narrow use scenarios. Okay, one other time this would be good is maybe a casual weekend walkabout in cool weather, a walk in the park, a walk in the rain, an outdoor fall festival in the countryside. You might be dressed casually, but it's fine in that situation. Your scent trail will definitely attract new friends, I think. So how about performance? And by performance, of course, I mean longevity, sillage, and projection. And yes, Tobacco Vanille does live up to expectations. In my opinion, it had bloody better at the price Ford is asking, but it's not over the top, meaning you're not going to kill someone with it unless you become trigger crazy with the spray and use it in the summer. I think just a couple of sprays is probably enough with this stuff though. With time, the projection calms down, but you do get quite a lovely scent bubble for hours upon hours. I would definitely recommend applying this to clothes rather than or addition to skin because it lasts and lasts and lasts on most fabrics. On skin, I get about 8 to 10 hours, but I do have dry skin, so it might last longer on you. Actually, for extra skin hydration to help out the scent, it's always a good idea to moisturize. And if you want an extra pipe tobacco boost, I recommend Demeter's pipe tobacco lotion. Demeter is the Greek Olympian goddess of harvest and agriculture, but her name is also an affordable American fragrance brand that focuses on very literal aroma profiles. Check it out. All right, so I promised to bring up a couple of alternatives for those of you less keen to splash out all that cash required for Tobacco Vanille. So here we go. I have one clone and one dupe, and to be clear on how I use the terminology, a clone is a fragrance that tries to unabashedly copy the original, while a dupe is a fragrance that makes no claim to copying, but is very clearly inspired, at least inspired by the original. So the clone I have here is this massive brown glass rock that, with the cap, it's clearly referencing Tom Ford, right? It's called Charuto, and Tobacco Vanille is written, subtitled. The brand is Pandora Scents, which I'm guessing is owned by a larger company called Paris Corner, which is written on the back here. It's an Emiretti brand, and I'll link to it below for you. They appear to do a lot of copycat scents for popular, expensive, top brand fragrances. This particular bottle, however, is something I purchased for a song on eBay. I think I paid almost the same amount for the shipping, which is sadly not uncommon for me living in Japan. Now, this fragrance is not indistinguishable from the original. This one has more honey and feels somehow lighter and stays closer to the skin. I also don't feel that this one is as smooth and seductive as the original. There's something at the base of the Tom Ford blend that quietly exudes naughtiness. This gives more of a nod or a whisper, but honestly, you guys, here's the thing. This fragrance is on the cheaper end of designer fragrances, and Tom Ford's private blend is on the pricier side of luxe perfumes. If you love Tobacco Vanille and simply cannot afford it, what the heck? You might be the only one who knows. This one to me is like, it's close to 90% similar, I think. Of course, the performance is not as good, but you might even like this one better. I don't know, it does happen. Now, obviously, I'm not 100% against clones, at least in the perfume industry, and perhaps I'll explain my reasons in another video. I certainly don't feel the same about imitation handbags, though. Another fragrance I have for you today is not as close to the original, but definitely still carries the same scent profile as Tobacco Vanille. And surprisingly, at least to me, this one is from MAC, a Canadian cosmetics company. Yay, go Canada, eh? I only have a sample size of this one. It's part of the MAC Shades collection and is called Velvet Teddy. There are notes of honey, amber, musk, and tobacco flower, the same kind of musky sweet profile that you find in Tobacco Vanille. Yeah, I didn't expect a scent like this from MAC, I have to admit. I feel there's a booziness to this. Let me just spray it. Yeah, there's more of a booziness to this. It's like the stone fruits that have gone ripe a bit and they're starting to ferment. It's a lot less spicy, more floral, maybe more feminine, lighter, and there's less depth. And I don't know how long it lasts because obviously I only have this little guy, but I don't think it's gonna perform like Tobacco Vanille. You have to expect that. But for the price, I guess it's not bad, but I'd prefer the Charuto. There are currently only 2 fragrances on the MAC retail site from the Scent Shades collection, so I don't know if you can get this anymore. It's possible that the scent has been discontinued. If I find it, I'll link it. Okay, I have a bonus mention here. This is not a dupe at all in my opinion, but it does bear a lot of similarities, and I absolutely love this very underrated fragrance from L'Occitane en Provence called Eau de Beau. Oh my God, you guys, this is really lovely. There is not much in the way of tobacco here, but it's a beautifully soft and sexy vanilla heavy fragrance targeting men, but I don't think it runs masculine actually. It's impossible to find this here in Japan. I think I got this little bottle, not my first by the way, in Budapest. Gosh, that's ages ago. Do you remember Travel Guys? This sweet and spicy scent also has tonka bean and vanilla with pepper and cardamom. It's got an earthy quality due to the cypress, but it's also boozy and warm and cozy, and it's delicious. Yeah, if you like Tobacco Vanille, you'll definitely enjoy this too, I think. And the price point is just fine. It's totally reasonable. It doesn't perform the best, I'll say. It's closer to the skin, but it's beautiful. So I recommend this. So anyway, back to the original Tobacco Vanille. It's addictive, it's sexy, sweet, sensual, sophisticated, expensive smelling, yummy, gorgeous. But do use with restraint. I still love it as much as I did when it first came out, even though it's not something I can wear every day. It's ridiculously priced, at least for me, and it's not as unique as it once was, but boy was it groundbreaking when it first came out though. Does everyone like this scent? No, of course not. The biggest insult I've heard about Tobacco Vanille is that it smells like a Yankee candle. Yankee's an American candle company whose cheaper range candles can sometimes be overpowering, shall we say. Fortunately, I don't get that association. But what about you guys? What do you feel about this fragrance? I look forward to reading your comments. Ok mes amis, c'est tout pour aujourd'hui. Sainte Gourmande signing out. I'll see you in the next video. Mwah.